Most high fantasy books start off with the protagonist living contentedly in an idyllic little village, until BAM! Something happens that forces them to leave their village and go off on an adventure. Have you ever wondered what it would be like if the protagonist never left their cozy little village? Most people would say that wouldn't happen because you need an adventure to make a good fantasy story. Most people have never read a high fantasy story where no one and nothing dies. Well, ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce A Turn of Light, a story where the protagonist never leaves her village and the only casualties are a couple of rats. Surprisingly, it's not all that bad. Our story is set in Marrowdale, a quiet little village where a bunch of exiled nobles have gone to start a new life and raise their families. On the surface, the village appears to be fairly normal, but underneath there's sorcery and a host of magical creatures. Our protagonist, Jen Nallen, is dying to leave the village and go off on an adventure, but both her friends and family have forbidden her to leave. Instead, as strange newcomers arrive in Marrowdale, she must discover the deep secrets of her hometown and the truth of her own past. Now, all of that sounds rather dramatic, but really the book is very slow-paced and practically oozes domesticity. Most of the time is spent detailing the villagers' everyday lives and Jen's romances. Through the course of the book, she has quite a number of suitors, but the focus is on her love triangle with Benan, a handsome, well-spoken newcomer, and Will, a dark and mysterious childhood friend. I know dark and mysterious aren't generally words you associate with childhood friend, but trust me, it's appropriate in this case. There is a large cast of characters in this story as we are introduced to every single inhabitant of Marrowdale and a number of newcomers. There's Jen, our innocent but stubborn protagonist who has a tendency to jump into things and think later, Rad, the classic loving and overprotective widower father, Horace, the quiet, withdrawn and loving uncle, Pegs, the saccharine, sweet and caring sister, Aunt Sib, surprise, a stern and proper aunt, Wisp, an invisible companion of Jen's who's guarded her since childhood and is romantic option number 1, Benan, a handsome former soldier and a newcomer to the valley who's romantic option number 2, Tyr, Benan's crusty soldier friend, Rosh, a childhood annoyance and one of Jen's several rejected lovers, Scourge, Benan's horse which is not a horse, Kid, the beekeeper and Peg's romantic interest, as well as the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, and 30 other characters who are important but I don't have time to mention. The author develops all of the characters in this story with love and care, and a philosophy of everyone's alright really once you get to know them, such that at points it felt like the author got writing advice from Winnie the Pooh. Since the entire 850 pages of this book take place in the village of Marrowdale, it would need to be a pretty fantastic setting for the story to work, and luckily, it is. It is described in such a way that it evokes beauty and homey comfort, while still having undercurrents of danger. The way the author creates these two different layers of Marrowdale is brilliant, and it helps make up for the lack of exploration of the rest of the world. The book's other strength is its ending, because although it took an age and a half to get there, it's thoroughly satisfying and wraps up the story perfectly. The biggest problem I had with this book was the pacing. At points, the story moves at a snail's pace, and I'd often feel sleepy after finishing a chapter. As there are already many excellent textbooks that work well as sleep aids, it's redundant to have a fantasy book that fulfills the same role. My other issue with this story was the size of the bestiary of magical beings introduced. Krar, Yings, Eflet, Say, Nefrit, Trueborn. Because of the sheer amount of these new creatures, the author didn't have enough time to describe them all properly. By the end of the book, I still had no idea what the difference between an Eflet or a Ying is, or to say looks like, leaving them all as vague squiggles in my mind and nothing more. A Turn of Light is a gentle and beautiful book, but hardly gripping. Take it as something to put you to bed with sweet dreams, not something to keep you up through the night. Overall, I give this book a 6 out of 10. If you've already read this book and you're looking for something else to read of the same nature, I would suggest the Frontier Magic trilogy by Patricia C. Reed, as it has similar themes and pacing. Thanks for listening to this review. If you liked it, please subscribe, and of course, all comments are welcome.